people have actually talked well of the Seventh Assembly. That is quite different from the Sixth Assembly and its leadership, knowing full well that, well, if you look at it, they say they've learned from that particular case and abide by the law as it is now.
Well, again, if you look at what happened with, I think it was with the Sixth Assembly, you ask yourself exactly how much they have learned in the process. I mean, if you talk about the power probe, it was exactly the same thing that happened, with the power probe. They were probing certain people that had diverted funds in the country and so on, and then got enmeshed in corruption. Then the Hembe issue, SEC issue, they were doing the same thing. Then they got enmeshed in the corruption. You ask yourself, did they truly learn from what happened in the Sixth Assembly? But that is not to say that progress has not been made. I think there has been some level of progression, somehow. Do you understand? And maybe that has to do with the factor, with the character of the leadership of the National Assembly, and especially with the leadership wanting to steer away from corruption that has also dogged the previous National Assemblies. And I think that they have been able to, this leadership has been able as much as possible to steer away from, that kind of infamy that characterized, the previous assemblies. That is one thing that has weighed heavily in favor of this assembly. And then again,
sorry, just before you continue, on that basis alone, do you not think that, they're already a little above 50?
Well, you see, if for instance they have not been, for instance with regards to corruption, if they had not, some of them have not actually been indicted for corruption or been punished for corruption and so on, it might not be as a result of the performance of the National Assembly.
You mean being investigated?
Being investigated and so on, and maybe being found guilty of corruption and
Nobody
so on.
has been found guilty yet.
Nobody has been found guilty. If that has not happened, it is not because corruption is not taking place. Then you have to go beyond the National Assembly to ask yourself, why is it that when you talk about corruption in this country, that nothing significant seems to have been done. And so you now find out, for instance, that they are not responsible, for prosecuting themselves. The federal government, the executive has to do their job of prosecuting, those of them who have been found, to be corrupt. So to some extent, the fact that the executive has not been able to do that job and maybe been able to do it well, you could also extend that argument in their favor, that perhaps, all is well. But it is because somehow the executive has lacked the teeth, has lacked the bite to be able to prosecute corruption successfully. That is why, to a very large extent, you could say that maybe this assembly has been relatively clean when it comes to the issue of corruption.
One of the